Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're gonna talk about skill add-ons. I'm gonna try and go as much in depth as I can with this. There's a lot to cover, so let's go. Let's start with awakening real quick. Before this video starts, I want to let you guys know that I'm gonna talk about these skills, but mostly it's gonna come down to the player. These are the ones that work for me and that I think I use the most when I'm in a PvP situation or large scale 1vx, whatever. So I just wanted to make that clear and let you guys know that this could all change for you. It could be different. You could use, I don't know, another skill instead of Bloody Calamity. You could, I don't know, use Dark Flame or Big Kick or Clawfire or whatever, you know. It really depends on the person. It depends on the player, your play style, and whatever situation you think you'll get yourself into. So for Awakening, I ended up using PvP skills and PvP add-ons for them, and I started with Bloody Calamity. So I choose Bloody Calamity because I thought in a situation that I get into a 1vx or something like that, I could pop the Bloody Calamity just as you see in this situation right here, and you get the crit buff and the PP damage. It might save you, it might not too, but it's better to die trying, I guess. Then I choose Shadow Eruption. The critical hit rate is 20% and attacks and casting speed plus 7%. The Shadow Eruption attack and casting speed is something that you actually notice when you land it. Your skills get to be a bit faster, you iframe a bit faster if you land it, and the critical hit rate plus 20% is pretty good. Getting crit rate buffs is gonna help you drop a lot of damage. It's gonna stack with Midnight Stinger plus 40% damage. So if you land the skill and get the buff, you're gonna drop a lot of damage. It's either gonna be plus 50% or plus 60% if you use the Bloody Calamity one, plus 30%, and it's gonna help you a lot. You're gonna drop a lot of damage when you do a crit hit. Then I went with Dream of Doom. Again, critical hit rate, and then inflict 100 bleeding damage. This one is really subjective. I choose it because it suits my playstyle. I tend to drop a Dream of Doom from range usually, so if it hits, I'll probably get the buff and I rush into it, just as you see in this demonstration right here. For awakening skills, I stick with turn back slash. I choose PvP damage plus 10%, all accuracy plus 4%. Mostly, I tend to do CCs with that, so getting the PvP damage is nice. I actually am not sure how much it actually affects the damage. Add-ons are really weird in this game and kind of complicated when it comes to like what's better in slot or what is not. I went for the accuracy buff because I don't have too much accuracy, not as much as I need for like evasion builds, like to do a decent damage on them. Even with high AP, it's just nothing happens. So every little bit helps. 4% might not sound like a lot, but it actually helps a bit. Every little bit helps when it comes to accuracy. It's really subjective, and it is really hard to choose something because they probably, a lot of them work. It all depends on their situation and how you play, stuff like that. This is not set in stone, so you could play around with it. You know, again, crit rate, pretty good. AP damage, it sounds good. I don't know how much it impacts it. You could do all AP minus 15. It could actually work too. Then I went with Grim Reaper, our kind of bread and butter skill right now because of the bond skill. I put attack speed, casting speed plus 7%. This is actually one that you feel a lot when you land it. And then I went with 100 bleeding damage because it's nice to stack some bleed just in case. And the last skill I went with was Cartoon's Nightmare. It's probably most of much as you guys know, a lot of stories are using it now. I went with movement speed minus 10% and 150 bleeding damage. Went with the movement speed minus 10% just to slow them down. Slow debuff I think is the worst for probably any class out there. So sometimes an actual movement speed debuffs for swords is actually your great thing. That being said, when it comes to combos and actually fighting someone, it's actually worse. But yeah, it's what I went for. It's pretty simple. It drops a lot of damage on its own, so you can, it with the flow, you can actually just keep it going. So get a CC, drop the skill down, and just watch the HP drop. Pretty satisfying. So those are my awakening skill add-ons. I hope it helps you a little bit. Feel free to play around with them. Don't be scared. Worst thing, you just don't get a debuff or a buff, or they just don't work for you. So there's a lot to cover, and there's a lot to choose from now. It's really hard to put something concrete, but if you go with the basics, just some people like to get a lot of crit buffs, and that way you can kind of rotate them and always have a crit buff in your hotbar or a buff bar. And yeah, that's pretty much it for awakening. Let's move on to succession. For succession, I ended up with this setup. I still consider it being a work in progress. I'm not too knowledgeable of succession stuff, mainly because I don't play too much of it. But in a way, I just kind of base it off awakening stuff. With Crow Flare, I went with all defense plus 10, attack casting speed plus 4%. Remember that casting speed is the one that Sorg needs more. So when you get a buff of casting speed, you iframe faster. Be conscious of it, because sometimes you end up going really fast and draining your stamina. So be careful when you get the buffs. It feels good, but it also could get you killed if you lose track of your stamina. Then I went with Bloody Calamity, PP damage plus 15, and crit rate is basically the same one as Awakening, same reasons, and mostly in succession because you have the Dream of Doom like skill after the Bloody Calamity. Then I went with Shadow Eruption, critical hit, attack casting speed, again, same as Awakening, same reasons. You still feel the casting speed, and critical hit rate is really nice to have. It's gonna help you keep it up during most of the battles. So with Shadow Eruption, same skill add-ons as Awakening, again, same reasons. Dream of Doom, all defense but 15. My mindset every time I play Succession is that I need to compensate for my lack of DP. So I put the defense add-on in the hopes that it might help me sometimes. I don't really know how well it works, but yeah, it's there. Then I went with instantly recovered 20 MP. That's actually not going to help you a lot in PvP, but if you grind, which is the main thing that I mostly do in Succession nowadays, it's going to help you get your mana back. But that's mostly PvE stuff. I'll try and cover that after this. Then I went with Absolute Darkness, all accuracy plus 4%, and crit rate plus 20% again. This is mostly a PvE skill, but you can use it in a PvP situation. You're really gonna use it, but if you do, you could, I don't know, style someone, I guess. Then I went with Turn Backslash, critical hit damage plus 3% again, and inflict 100 bleeding damage. I always try and take Turn Backslash because it's a skill that I really like to use for CCs. Might not be the safest one to use, but I kind of just like how it feels when you do it. Especially when you do the fast one, the insta turn backslash one, and it's a nice setup to go for the air combo, which is mainly this one. So for PvE add-ons, I went for this. It's mainly succession based. I haven't grind in Awakening yet, so I don't have any skill add-ons set for that. So this build was actually made by a guildie of mine. His name is Seven. So I just took this build and kind of yoink it from him. And it's what I use now for PvE succession again. So he went for Big Kick, all defense plus 15, and back attack damage plus 3%. You usually use Crow Flare Big Kick, or you do Shadow Ignition into Big Kick with just Shadow Ignition and right click. So you, at that point, you get the elevation from the skill itself. Plus, you're gonna get the buffs from the skill add-ons, and back attack damage is something that you're gonna do a lot on high-end zones like Istria, Sakraya, Starson, Odalita ones now, places like that. Then he went for Black Wave, critical hit rate plus 20%, instantly recovered 20 MP. He obviously took the MP buff for even greater like mana regen. Black Wave has already a mana regen on its own, so instantly, so the buff is gonna get you even more mana basically. Crit rate, since Black Wave is a skill that you use most of the times in succession. The crit rate is gonna help you a lot, deals a lot of damage on its own even, but creating a crit rate is gonna increase that. Then he went for Shadow Eruption, damage against monsters, and attack casting speed. So he chooses the damage against monsters, because you do Midnight Stinger Shadow Eruption, so it kind of sets you up for whatever you do next. Actual PvE combo goes with Absolute Darkness, Midnight Stinger, Scattering Shadow, Shadow Eruption, Shadow Ignition, hold right click at the end for Big Kick, Crow Flare, hold C for Turn Back Slash and Violation, Heart Flame, Engulfing Shadow. Let's get onto the other add-ons and then I'll go a bit in depth on that combo, what you get, like what you're doing mid combo. Then he went for Abyssal Flame, all DP minus 15 and instantly recover MP. I personally don't use it that much, but when you do use it, it drops a fair bit of damage. Recover 20 MP is always good. If you don't have the infinite pot, or if you can't carry out a lot of mana pots, it helps you a lot. Then I went for Absolute Darkness, mostly because of the crit rate, plus 20%, accuracy plus 4%. Getting the crit rate while grinding is actually a huge thing. It's always very important to grind with crit rate buff. It's going to help you drop a lot of damage. It's going to help you clear a bit faster. So the faster you clear, the more trash loot you're getting, and the more trash loot you're getting, the more money you're getting. Then we went with Prime Turn Back Slash, Inflict 100 bleeding damage, and gotta go hit damage. You use it after your Crow Flare in the actual combo, or sort of the combo. That combo was actually given to me by Gildy again, Cassie. So let's talk about the combo, which is actually on the screen right now. So, as I said, Absolute Darkness, Midnight Stinger, Scattering Shadow, Shadow Eruption, Shadow Ignition, hold right click for at the end for the Big Kick, Crow Flare, hold C for Turn Back Slash and Violation, Dark Flame, and Engulfing Shadow. So when you do the Absolute Darkness, you are getting the crit rate buff, so you can see. Then when you do the Midnight Stinger, you're getting another crit rate buff, which is the plus 40%. When you do the Scattering Shadow, you are getting the magic accuracy buff. Then when you do the Shadow Eruption, you're gonna get the cast speed and you're gonna get the damage against monster. So after that, you do Shadow Ignition, which is mostly you're gonna drop damage there, and then you hold the right click for the Big Kick, which is gonna give the mobs a debuff of the all evasion rate minus 9%. Then you do the Crow Flare mostly to cancel into the turn back slash, which you're gonna hold C, and it's gonna automatically do it for you, and the Violation. Then you are gonna go into Dark Flame, which mostly that is dropping damage. Then you're gonna do Engulfing Shadow mostly to finish off if they are not dead. By then you can also iframe to the side and just spam the Black Wave. So that is it for the skill add-on side of thing. I was planning on doing the bond skills and the other revamp skill video in the same one, but I think it's gonna take a bit too long to do, so I'll do that in a separate video. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. I know I didn't went into PvE skills for Awakening, but you basically can translate the succession ones for Awakening, but remember you're mainly gonna be using Violation, Turn Back Slash. You're not gonna use a lot of Grim Reaper, so don't worry about that one. Cartons, you might use it if you have enough DP in the area that you're grinding. You might want to use it, but if it's high in places like Succ&Awak or Stars, and I would watch out with it, because you're gonna take a bit of damage if you don't have enough DP to like basically hold the fort down. So watch it. It drops a lot of damage, but when it comes to high end places, it also, you're gonna get a lot of damage to you. So that's pretty much it. I'll be working on the next one very shortly. Be on the lookout for that. Hopefully this helps you. Feel free to leave any questions in the comments below. Feel free also to like and subscribe if you want to. So yeah, take care, stay safe, see ya.